Welcome to Taiwan Headlines, news that impacts Taiwan's future. I'm your host, Donovan Smith. A coalition of over 50 civic organizations will march in Taipei on Sunday to remember the victims of the February 28th incident and to protest against the lingering symbols of authoritarianism in Taiwanese society. They also issued a declaration with their first demand calling for the dismantling of authoritarianism and the liquidation of the KMT and its related powers in Chinese, though the wording was softer in the English language version. The National Development Council has announced that Taiwan's economy has a good chance of exceeding 4% annual growth this year if the country makes the most of opportunities presented by the restructuring of global supply chains in the wake of the pandemic and attracts investment in major construction projects. Meanwhile, the Directorate General of Budget, Accounting and Statistics has forecast Taiwan's economy will grow by 3.83% in 2021. The presidential office has announced a reshuffle of 3 cabinet-level officials, replacing the leaders of the Ministry of National Defense, National Security Bureau, and the Mainland Affairs Council. Chiu Kuo-zheng, Director General of the National Security Bureau, will take over as Minister of Defense. Mainland Affairs Council head Chen Mingtong will succeed Chiu as head of the National Security Bureau, while Chiu Tai-san, a former NSC advisor, will lead the Mainland Affairs Council. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has welcomed the election of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala as the new head of the World Trade Organization and vowed to work with her to strengthen the international trade system. She has said she intends to treat Taiwan fairly. Following the passage of a law that allows Chinese Coast Guard ships to use handheld weapons on foreign ships operating so-called illegally in China's waters under certain conditions, China has sent Coast Guard ships into waters around the Senkakus Islands, some of them equipped with, quote, cannon-like weapons, into the contested waters at least 6 times since February 1st. The Senkakus Islands are administered by Japan, but are also claimed by Taiwan as the Diaoyutai Islands and by China as the Diaoyu Islands. The U.S. has confirmed that their defense treaty with Japan applies to the Senkakus. A spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the Diaoyutai Islands are undoubtedly inherent parts of the Republic of China. She also added, quote, any unilateral actions by other parties will not change the fact that our country has sovereignty over those islands. She also urged restraint by all parties involved in the Diaoyutai Islands disputes, adding that Taiwan's government will continue to handle the disputes through peaceful means and protect the fishing rights of Taiwanese fishermen. For more context on the subject, check out the Taiwan Report news brief entitled Silliness and Stupidity Over the Senkakus. Nearly 40 members of the United States House of Representatives on Thursday led a bipartisan effort to back Taiwan's bid for observer status in the World Health Organization by requiring the Secretary of State to develop a strategy to regain observer status for Taiwan in the WHO. Meanwhile, 2 members of the United States Congress reintroduced a bill in the Senate and House of Representatives to deter the use of force by China against Taiwan. The proposed Taiwan Invasion Prevention Act is sponsored by Republican Senator Rick Scott and Representative Guy Rethenthaler. I assume he's also a Republican. If passed, it would, among other things, authorize the President of the United States to use force to protect Taiwan under the following 3 circumstances: a direct attack by China's military, the seizure of Taiwan territory by Chinese forces, or the endangering of Taiwan's military forces or civilians. The U.S. Congress passed a similar pre-authorization for use of force by the president in the 1950s. It will be interesting to see if it passes. All right, I'm very excited to announce we have another patron on Patreon. And I'm probably going to get the name wrong because I actually looked it up on 3 different sites and each site gave a different pronunciation. So I'd like to thank Naji. I definitely appreciate your support. It really means a lot to us here at Taiwan Report, and it really helps keep us going. I also screwed up the other day. One of our patrons, it's not Formosa Business Support, it's Formosan Business Support. And here's a plug for them. Our monthly potluck supporter, Formosan Business Support, based in Taichung and Kaohsiung, supporting Taiwan's energy transition into a green, self-sustainable industrial island. You can find out more about them at formosanbs.com. All right, be sure and hit like and subscribe and hit the bell if you're on YouTube.
This has been brought to you by the Taiwan Report. For more content like this, become our patron at report.tw.
还有就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。